Welcome back to another episode of Chatroom with Shizza. I'm going to keep the intro really short because the topic that I'm going to talk about today is very close to my heart. And I can bet it is very close to, every Pakistani's heart. Unfortunately, for more than 2 decades over here in Pakistan, we are fighting a war against terrorism, against something that we didn't even start, but we're bearing the brunt of. Since then, billions of dollars in economic losses, around 90,000 and more lives lost. This is something Pakistan refuses to take anymore. But I want you to understand the ideology behind this wave of terror, especially since 2024 again. We are seeing a new wave. With me today, I think I have a very apt person to actually help me, break down this ideology and share with you the discourse behind this wave of terrorism. He happens to be an intellectual, doesn't like to call himself that. I would call him that. And he happens to be an international relations expert as well. With me, I have Ahmad Hassan Al-Arbi. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for your time, Ahmad.
Walaikum salam. Thank you so much for having me.
I just want to begin already, without building any more narrative on it. A few days ago, there was a press conference by the DGISPR. And of course, they were breaking down the surge in terrorism, the number of intelligence operations, the number of lives lost and everything. We are definitely going to come to that. But a very important thing that he mentioned was that every suicide bomber that they have come across was a drug addict. What do you have to say about that?
Because in one sentence, because this terrorism, especially this fitna al-Khawarij, the terrorism that we are facing in KPK, especially after the war on terror started, that form of terrorism has absolutely nothing to do with religion. Islam is a religion of benevolence. Islam is a religion of justice. Islam is a religion of freedom. Islam is the religion of peace. These terrorist outfits, they create a narrative and then they weaponize that narrative, use it for their own ulterior motives and for the ulterior motives of their handlers, abettors, financiers. When it comes to Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, this Fitna al-Khawarij outfit, you asked me that if it is a religious terrorist outfit, then if they are following the religion, they must not be using drugs. It's not just about drugs.
Basic argument, right?
Yeah, it is. And it's just not about drugs. There's evidence of alcohol consumption from the caves in which they live. Back in 2014, 2015, I had seen the pictures with my own eyes from the hideouts of TTP that they were eating pork. Their treatment with women, the way they treat women, it has absolutely nothing to do with Islam. In fact, it is at war with the basic teachings of Islam and the teaching of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when you look at the foundation of this terrorist outfit, it was not created by people who were Muslims. TTP was created by Ajit Kumar Dole. He himself is on record saying that we have created the TTP to instigate terrorism inside Pakistan, to soften up Pakistan for a formal or conventional invasion. So these are the mastermind. Same goes for the terrorist out, because the terrorism of this TTP, the brand of terrorism that they've brought in Pakistan, it has a lot of baggage and links with the terrorism that is taking place in the Middle Eastern arena and Middle Eastern theater. And Donald Trump himself is on record saying that, I'm going to quote him, he said that Hillary Clinton and Obama created Al-Qaeda and ISIS and Daesh. So basically, these terrorist outfits were not created by Islam. They have nothing to do with Islam.
Mm-hmm.
Once you create a terrorist outfit, you have to, design a framework.
Mm-hmm.
A framework of how that terrorist outfit is going to function and where they are going to function. So when they created TTP, they recognize that the TTP is going to, and the fault lines and geographical fault lines that we are going to exploit is going to be those of FATA, ex-FATA, and especially the province of KPK. And because when you analyze the population, they needed a narrative that can help the fighters of this terrorist outfit camouflage themselves in the public and create what we call 5th, 6th generation asymmetric urban decentralized war.
Right.
And that is the reason why they created this religious narrative.
Ahmed, I have watched a lot of your work, mashallah, not only videos, but you have written a lot of papers on it also. So while we are here discussing this today, I was genuinely looking forward to learning from you because you have studied it deeply. Coming back to 2026, of course, this new wave of terrorism has been ongoing for about 2 years now, but since January alone, 3,145 terror related incidents in the country so far. And by the time this video is published, I'm pretty sure there will be more to add. And that constituted to more than 800 deaths, soldiers and civilians included. And this is only 6 or 7 months from this year. Very unfortunate. You spoke about the narrative and you categorically said this is not Islam, which of course we as Muslims understand. It's our religion of peace. I want to break down the ideology behind this new wave. A research paper said that they go after youngsters, men and women alike, who are in a sort of an identity crisis. What would you say about that?
Right. So when we talk about terrorism, the surge in terrorism and the terror incidents that you have pointed out earlier, there's a very important aspect that we have to add to that statement, which is that after January, if we only talk about Balochistan and the
Mhm.
terrorism of this Fitnatul Hindustan, BLA, etc., the security forces have been able to neutralize almost 6 to 700 militant terrorists of BLA and TTP. According to SOFA Center, the total number of this BLA terrorists inside Balochistan is not more than 2,500, between 2,000 to 2,500. So basically, Pakistan security forces, because of an impeccable counterterrorism effort, we are able to eradicate 40 to 50% of their terrorist outfit just in the last 6 to 7 months, which in itself is a miraculous achievement when it comes to counterterrorism domain. So the number of terrorist attacks are increasing.
Mhm.
Why? Because this has become an existential war. The war, which was an existential war for Pakistan after 2001, then 2007 onwards, has now become an existential war for TTP and BLA, for these terrorist outfits. So that particularly is the reason why they have increased the number of attacks on Pakistan armed forces, etc. Because the army and the security forces are fighting back, not just defensively, but this time it is extremely aggressive.
Mhm.
We are hunting them down. Number two, you have mentioned about how these terrorist outfit uses the youth of a nation, of a country, and they use them for recruiting them, etc. Uh, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he told us about the characteristics of Khawarij, the specific group, this TTP Fitna al Khawarij, there's a very important characteristic that he mentioned. He said that they are going to use young people, and
Because they're
because
easily
because
gullible.
they are gullible, because their minds are fragile, because they are emotional, because their minds are not mature enough. It is basically the fault line that they are targeting is not illiteracy. They are targeting semi-literacy.
Mhm.
You are religiously aware enough to understand and what religion is. You are emotionally aware enough to get raised up and rally behind slogans of Islam, etc. But you are not mature enough to understand what is true theology and what are the distortions in theology, or I mean, what are the perverted narratives that are being used by these terrorist outfits. And ideology, you've mentioned the religious ideology. The religious ideology is for the foot soldiers.
Okay.
This notion of afterlife, the notion of hoods, etc. Uh, all of this is for the foot soldier. Their commanders, district level commanders, and
Mhm.
above,
Mhm.
they know this for sure, that there is no ideology. They know it is not Islam. They know it has nothing to do with Islam. They, and above, the think tanks that created TTP, they also know that it has nothing to do with
So it's
Islam.
just a PR campaign in the name of religion?
It's basically a confusion tactic. It's basically a narrative, a meta narrative, to help them recruit people and to help their operations inside a majority Muslim population. So that ideology is
Mm.
only for the masses and the gullible, innocent, naive public, which basically houses them, which keeps them, or
Mm.
and becomes their supporters and abettors knowingly or unknowingly. This ideology is for them. It is not for their masters. It is not for their commanders. It is not for their the heads of the terrorist organization. They all know what they are doing. They know it very well. They've designed it mechanically. It is not emotional. It is not ideological. Absolutely not.
And I think this is exactly why this discussion that we are having over here, Ahmed, is so important. Because while, of course, we really hope it is going to reach to the masses and public, first of all, of Pakistan, but also beyond. So for people who might, associate Pakistan with this unfortunate word, I want them to understand what really this is. Um, can you please break down takfir for me?
According to the classical Islamic jurisprudence and the Islamic scholarship, what the TTP is doing, that's called takfir al-umam. They have journalized takfir on the masses. Everybody in the army, according to them, is apostate, a kafir. This is
But
what
can anyone do that?
No.
It's such a sensitive thing.
I'm going to break it down for
Okay.
you. Takfir is the most sensitive, weightiest, and grave legal and theological judgment. And in order to call someone or in order to invoke takfir, there's a very lengthy, long process. A chain of evidence. You have to make sure that there is no misconception. You have to make sure that there is no misrepresentation. You have to make sure that there is no coercion. The chain of evidence has to be there. And then the jurists, judiciary, scholars sit together, and then, only then, they can sort of invoke this takfir. The Prophet ﷺ, in his teachings in Hadith Sharif, you can find a very clear instruction. He has forbade Muslims to call another Muslim kafir or invoke takfir there. So there's a process. These terrorist outfits, what they are doing is exact opposite of that process. They identify their political objectives. They identify the geographical objectives of their handlers, abettors, supporter, financiers. For example, the Indians and the Israelis. And then they carve out an operational plan. They have to use violence to achieve their political objective.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to facilitate and justify that violence, they invoke takfir. So takfir, when they invoke it, it has nothing to do with Islam. It does not follow the Islamic procedure. In fact, it is a clear war against the instruction of the Holy Prophet ﷺ and those of Islam. So that's basically what it is.
It's political control.
It's political control, it's patriarchal control, it's geographical control, it's serving the purpose of then. The Prophet ﷺ also, when he pointed out, when he explained this fitna al-Khawarij, another characteristic was that these Khawarij are going to call their fellow Muslims kafir. Okay. They're going to invoke this takfir on their fellow Muslims. And through that, they are going to justify killing them, their children, and attacking their property. All of this while taking direct support from the enemies of Islam. And you can see that they are taking support. The TTP is taking support from India. Secondly, the provinces in which there are the hideouts of TTP inside Afghanistan, like Kunard, Khost, Paktika, all these provinces, just do a little research on Google and you'll find out that the most active NGOs in those provinces are Israeli NGOs, Shea Foundation and Israel. Both of them are involved in carrying. I mean, a Pakistani Muslim cannot go to those provinces without his head being him being beheaded.
Imagine.
But these NGOs are not only working inside those provinces, but they are giving them finances and they are being protected by the same TTP, the Fitna al-Khawarij. So this basically is the larger game, that is it.
And, from our hostile neighbors, for them to blame us of cross-border terrorism, it's pretty rich of them, I'll be honest. But, Ahmed, this is, you mentioned how they also use their narrative against innocent children. And this is where my brain is, just blocked. I cannot comprehend this. It takes me back to 2014, of course. And that is one of the biggest examples Pakistan can quote. Till date, talking about it, goosebumps is a small thing. My heart breaks.
True.
First of all, if you are operating under the banner of religion, your religion teaches you to be merciful to children, to animals, everyone. So again, I want you to explain, because you've studied so much about it, the narrative, what goes behind a terrorist or a militant's head when they are planning to attack children and women. Vulnerable segments of the society.
Uh, APS is a wound that can never heal.
Never.
Never. Uh, there's this Canadian scholar. He explains politics and the system in which we are living through energy systems.
Okay.
And when we talk about energy systems, there is intrinsically two kinds of energies. There's a positive energy and there's a negative energy. When it comes to children are the most purest, sacred form of energy in this world, in the universe. And any terrorist outfit operates on the foundational principle of fear and negativity. So if you have to create an impact, and if you have to create a sense of depression at a societal level, a sense of disappointment, a sense of hopelessness, a sense of melancholy at the societal level, the most easiest method, unfortunately, is to target the children and then the women. So that is the thought process behind TTP. I still remember when this APS attack took place. I was in university. We were taking the philosophy class. There was like 400, 500 students who used to take that class. The attack started. We were in the class. When we came out, in the teacher, our professor told us that the APS attack took place, and this is how they are killing the children. And I still remember when we walked out of that class, it was like 400 zombies walking out of, because if you remember, even there was a collective sense of depression and disappointment and hopelessness and melancholy.
We had nothing to say to each other.
Exactly.
We could not comprehend, because I remember, sorry if I'm cutting you off, so my university had just started, and when the news broke, of course, no one wanted to study anymore. We were just sitting outside, and we were just sitting. We were not talking, and after a while, we would ask each other, have they gotten out yet? Because they were held captive for so long as well.
Yeah, and then you remember that what they did to the principle of APS and stuff like that. So basically, all these terrorist outfits, even you have seen Israel. They are very they are vulgarly carrying out attacks on the small children and women of Gaza. So they want to induce fear. TTP also wants to induce fear, and when they try to induce fear, as I said earlier, the most easiest, unfortunately, thing is to attack those who cannot defend themselves, and the children and the women.
And there's absolutely no courage behind that.
The thing is that when it comes to religious narrative, when a terrorist organization follow most, if you look at the population of the world, most people in the world, they follow a religion, whatever, and religious narrative is the strongest narrative.
Okay.
It is the meta narrative. So when a terrorist organization creates a religious narrative in order to take out violence, if you try to create a counter narrative which is a-religious, you lose the battle at the very initial stage, because they have used religion, a perverted ideology, a perverted interpretation of religion, to carry out violence. The counter narrative has to be a correct religious counter narrative, backed by truth, backed by evidence, and backed by logic. So for the past 10 to 15, when you talk about counterterrorism efforts, you have to target the terrorist on 3 domains. Number 1, you have to target them kinetically. Pakistan has been doing that for the past many years. Number 2, you have to target their sanctuaries wherever they are. And number 3, you have to target them ideologically, because ideology is the impetus. They take impetus from ideology. They create confusion through ideology. So there's only one way to counter that particular ideological narrative, is that you bring the real narrative. Against their falsehood, you bring about the truth.
Right.
And that is the reason why the state of Pakistan has called them Fitna al-Khawarij. And this primarily is the reason why you and I, sitting in Islamabad, are having a very frank discussion, discussing Khawarij, etc., calling them who they are. So this wouldn't have been possible if the state hasn't called them Khawarij.
True.
So state is basically telling them who they exactly are. They are not Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan.
It's not a Tehreek.
They are not Balochistan Liberation Army.
Absolutely not.
They are the vultures. The Prophet ﷺ called them dogs of hell. Kalabun Nar. This is what they are. They are Khawarij.
So much to talk about again, of course, but let's come down to the concept of Fidain. or Ghazi?
There's a science behind it.
Please.
There's a complete science behind it. Do you know the country that did the first suicide bombing in South Asia is India?
India, yeah.
India created LTTE, the Tamil Tigers. It was created by Raw, and then there is a specific group in LTTE called the Black Tigers.
Okay.
Black Tigers was the suicide squad of LTTE. On the same pattern of Black Tigers, they created this Majid Brigade in Balochistan. They are the suicide squad.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an Indian intelligence officer. He wrote a book and he explained the science. There are drugs basically that have the capacity to numb the thought process of human brain. They basically target human brain and those specific parts of the human brain which is involved in decision making when it comes to fear and rationalizing fear. So for example, this ice, a very common drug,
Yeah.
in the terrorists these days, it basically hinders the logical thought process to rationalize fear and consequences. So once you take that drug, the element of fear and consequence is erased.
Wow.
Then they use techniques of depression. They keep those people depressed, especially the women. They use gray colors in the background. They use all kind of depressing imagery. They basically use emotionally depressing frequency and music to make them depress, and then they use these kind of drugs to carry out suicide bombing. So it's a complete science. It has nothing to do with the religious motivation or anything. They use religion as a tool, but the science is there, and it has been in this modern times. If you look at the past 50, 60 years, the organization that has mastered it is Raw. You can see it in LTTE, you can see it in Majid Brigade, and you can see it in TTP as well.
So while information is absolutely important, rather a tool, so is disinformation. And I think that is something happening over here. You mentioned semi-literacy. That is a dangerous thing, to be honest, when you're not informed. Another research paper a few years ago when, militancy was at peak in Pakistan, from South Punjab specifically. So the writer is exploring madrasas of Taliban and militants in South Punjab. And they write that most of the recruits, Taliban, they have not completed formal education of Islam.
Education is the most important. See, this practically is the reason why they don't allow anyone to have formal education.
Because it opens your mind?
Because it opens your mind. It helps you rationalize. I mean, the Taliban, the Afghan Taliban, they have banned women from getting education, right? While in Islam, the Prophet ﷺ and the Quranic instructions are clear that you have to seek knowledge from cradle to grave.
Yeah.
The Prophet ﷺ said to seek knowledge even if you have to go to China, and there's no gender discrimination in seeking knowledge. Sayyidina Aisha Anhuma was a jurist. She was a scholar at that time as well, a narrator of these Muslim women have been scholars, they have been judges, they have been administrators,
Business
etc.
women.
And yes, and business women. And the first formal university in the world was basically built by a woman, a Muslim scholar.
Wow.
Right? So they bar women from getting education. Why? Because complete education, ability to think, understanding of history, knowledge is the biggest threat to this entire infrastructure of terrorism. All across Middle East, in Afghanistan, in these terrorist outfits, this BLA and this TTP, and if a person learns how to critically think, which basically is the reason why we seek education,
right?
Who is going to follow these nationalist slogans? Who is going to follow these perverted religious ideologies? People are going to rationalize what their interest is, and that is the reason why Islam focuses on education. And these terrorist outfits, they are fighting against education. That is the reason why they target schools. That is the reason why they target universities. That is the reason why they target colleges. That is the reason why they eye on people who are fragile in their minds, who have not who are not in universities, who are basically in universities and colleges, who are trying to form a thought process. And their thought process is not mature. Their knowledge is not mature. This is the reason why they do that.
So basically, villainizing educational institutions and associating them with vulgarity or negative traits so that one would think, okay, that is a bad thing to do. So, of course, I'm not going to do that. So much to uncover over here, but I really have to wrap this segment up. Towards the end, I want you to, Ahmed, um, give me some solutions that you must have thought because you have been studying this in detail. Is it, I don't know, community mobilization? Is it education? Is it economic growth opportunity? What do you think is the solution here?
It's a mix of all.
Okay.
Uh, you know, they say that the cure has to come from the poison itself. When the Indians they decided that they're going to create a terrorist outfit like TTP and like BLA inside Pakistan, they studied it. They
Hmm.
identified the fault lines. They identify where there is governance gap, where there are administrative issues, where in Pakistan which region has sort of economic disparity or something like that, a place from where they can create this narrative out. Then they created the terrorist outfit. So in order to comprehensively neutralize this terror and move towards sustainable peace, we
Mhm.
have to go back to the basics. We have to fix the governance issues. We have to fix the administrative issues. We have to fix the judicial problems. We have to fix the economic issues. We have to create job opportunities. We have to create schools and colleges, etc. And along with uh, all these things, we have to carry out counterterrorism operations, kinetic operations, be very hard on the terrorists. The laws, the judicial laws and the counterterrorism laws must be revamped and reimagined according to the needs and demands of the modern world. And once we work on all these domains at parallel, only then we will be able to eradicate terrorism uh, from Pakistan and be able to achieve sustainable peace in these areas.
Well, that does make sense. And I really hope it is that black and white so that we work towards it. Thank you so much, Ahmed, for your time. This was a brilliant discussion, very enlightening for me, and I'm sure it's going to be the same for my audiences as well. Ladies and gentlemen, this has left me with a lot of thoughts. I'm sure it will do the same to you. Let us know in the comments what you think about this conversation. There is absolutely no place for fitnat al khawarij, any sort of khariji, militant, terrorist, Taliban, whatever you want to label, in this beautiful, peaceful land of Pakistan. Conversations never end. I will catch you next week right here in the chat room with Shizza. Until then, take care.